Have you ever had someone look right at you and still not see you, like you were just part of the background, like a chair or a wall that only existed to make their life a little easier? Because this story starts exactly there with a man holding his trash. A quiet hallway and an assumption so casual it didn't even feel like an insult at first. Just another reminder of how invisible you can be until the moment you suddenly aren't. It was late afternoon on the executive floor of a glass tower downtown, the kind of place where everything is clean to the point of feeling sterile, where the air smells like coffee and money, and nobody ever raises their voice. I was standing in the hallway outside a conference room, notes in one hand, a paper coffee cup in the other, going over numbers for the third time because that's what I do when something matters. I like the quiet before a big meeting, you know what I mean? That little pocket of silence before everything gets loud and performative. I wasn't pacing, I wasn't rushing, I was just there, focused, grounded, exactly where I needed to be. Then I saw him out of the corner of my eye. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the posture of someone who's used to being listened to. He walked up without saying a word and held out two empty coffee cups toward me, just extended them like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a second, my brain honestly stalled. I thought maybe he was joking, or maybe he thought I worked there and was asking for directions because surely nobody would just hand a stranger their trash like that. But no. That was exactly what was happening. I looked up and said, calm as I could, "I'm sorry. Did you just hand me your trash?" He blinked like I'd interrupted a process he hadn't even realized was running. "Oh," he said, "I thought you were with facilities." Facilities. I remember the word landing heavier than it should have. I glanced down at myself, the tailored suit, the portfolio, the heels, then back at him. "Facilities," I said. "I'm wearing a tailored suit. Why would you assume that?" He shifted, already uncomfortable, already reaching for an explanation. "You were just standing here. It was a mistake." And that's when something in me hardened. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. "A mistake rooted in what you expected to see," I said. "You didn't actually look." He tried to backpedal, said that wasn't what he meant. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's exactly what you meant. "I'm not your cleaning lady," I told him. And then I walked past him toward the conference room before he could find another excuse. Here's the thing about moments like that. They're small on the surface. No yelling, no slurs, no scene, just a quiet assumption. But they carry the weight of every other time you've been mistaken for help or talked over or asked to grab coffee in a meeting you were running. Every time someone looked at you and decided who you were without bothering to check. And usually you swallow it, you smile, you let it slide. Because correcting people is exhausting and being labeled difficult is a real risk. But that day I didn't swallow it. I didn't plan not to. I just didn't. I grew up watching my parents swallow things every day. My mom cleaned office buildings at night, the same buildings where executives worked during the day, and nobody ever learned her name. My dad drove a city bus and got called invisible more times than I can count. They taught me early that education was the one thing nobody could take from you, so I chased it like my life depended on it because in some ways it did. I learned to be prepared, to be precise, to be better than good, because I knew the margin for error wasn't the same for me as it was for other people. You mess up once, it's proof you don't belong. You mess up twice, it's confirmation. By the time I was standing in that hallway, I'd earned my seat at that table 100 times over. I'd run the numbers, talked to employees. No one else bothered to interview stress-tested assumptions until they cracked. The company that man was pitching, I knew it inside and out. I knew where it was strong and where it was fragile, and I knew his leadership style was going to matter just as much as his revenue projections. That meeting wasn't just another pitch to me. It was a decision that would shape real people's lives. When I walked into the conference room and took the seat at the head of the table, the look on his face told me everything. Confusion first, then recognition, then that sinking realization that the woman he'd handed his trash to was the one holding the checkbook. I didn't say anything about the hallway. I didn't need to. The room felt different immediately, like the air pressure had changed. He started his presentation and I could hear it in his voice, the wobble where confidence used to be. Every time he made a sweeping claim, I waited, then asked a question. Not to embarrass him, not to punish him, just the questions that needed answers. Why were margins declining? Why were costs rising faster than growth? What exactly would change if we invested not in theory but in practice? He answered sort of, circled things, overpromised, and with every answer I saw more clearly what I'd already suspected. The numbers were borderline, but the bigger issue was judgment. The kind of judgment that makes you underestimate people. Missed signals create a culture where the wrong voices get ignored. You can't separate leadership from behavior no matter how much people try. After the meeting, the partners asked for my read. I told them the truth. The business could survive with discipline, but I didn't trust the leadership. I told them about the hallway, about the trash, about how easily he'd assumed I was there to serve him. The room went quiet. Someone asked if I was serious. I said yes. Another asked if that really mattered. I said it mattered more than they thought. Because if that's how he treats someone he's asking for millions of dollars, how does he treat people who can't say no to him? How does that show up when things get hard? We voted. The deal didn't go through. What happened after that wasn't dramatic in the way movies make things dramatic. There was no public confrontation, no viral video at first, just consequences unfolding one by one. The rejection raised eyebrows. Investors asked questions. The board connected dots. Within weeks, he was out. The company stumbled, then sold for a fraction of what it could have been worth. People lost jobs. Careers shifted. All because of one moment that revealed something he never bothered to examine in himself. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel triumphant. Mostly I felt tired, because this wasn't a victory so much as a confirmation of something I'd known my whole life. Bias isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet hand holding out trash, confident it's in the right place. Sometimes it's the absence of curiosity. And the cost of that blindness doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later in missed opportunities, lost talent, bad decisions that seem inexplicable until you trace them back to the moment someone decided not to look. People ask me if I think he was punished too harshly, if losing everything over one assumption was fair. And I get why they ask. I really do. Because we like to believe intent matters more than impact, that as long as you didn't mean harm, harm somehow doesn't count. But here's what I've learned. Leadership isn't about what you mean. It's about what you do. It's about the signals you send without realizing it, the patterns you repeat without questioning them. And if you're in a position of power, those patterns have consequences far beyond your own feelings. So I'll leave you with this. Was it just a mistake, or was it a window? Was it unfair, or was it inevitable? And how many times have we all consciously or not made assumptions that cost someone else more than we'll ever know? I want to hear what you think. Drop a comment. Argue with me if you want. Tell your own story, if you've lived something similar. Because these moments don't disappear when we ignore them. They just wait quietly until the bill comes due.